If you love and appreciate fresh specialty roast coffee, then you're going to like this idea a lot. I'm going to show you how to preserve that famous, well understood first week freshness for up to 18 weeks. This is not 100% an idea that I came up with alone. Back in 1935, a guy by the name of Francesco Illy, who started the illycaffe, came up with an idea that enabled him to ship fresh roast coffee beans from northern Italy way up into northern Europe without losing that first week freshness that the beans were so highly sought after for. What he did was he pressurized his cans with, he used nitrogen, and I think Francesco felt like that somehow the high pressure nitrogen headspace atmosphere in the can kept the CO2, which is normally exhausted by the beans over the course of, well, most of it probably the first week, and pretty much all of it during the first month. I think he associated that migration of CO2 from within the bean outward to the corresponding loss of freshness and that whatever, the flavor nuances, flavor essentials that make up fine fresh roast specialty coffee. And he felt like that somehow the CO2 migration outward somehow contributed toward the loss of that freshness and maybe those flavor essentials. I'm only speculating as to what was going through his mind, but it seems reasonable that that was one of his thoughts. So I've got some fresh roast coffee here. This happens to be Sumatra from a good company here in North Carolina. And, you know, there's a little vent here. That little vent, I say a vent, it's a one-way valve, allows this bag to be sealed, this foil-lined bag to be sealed, and for the CO2 that exhausts from the beans over the course of a week to vent out without rupturing the bag. So I've only got a few left here, so I'll show you. First of all, I made a little funnel out of a 2-liter bottle. You can get yourself, well, you can get yourself a growler if you like. You know, they're amber and they keep out some of the sun's harmful rays, the ultraviolet. You can get a smaller growler that I think this is like a 1 quart. You can get yourself a clear PET bottle like this one and just store your beans in a cabinet to keep them away from sunlight. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Let's start off with the little one. Screw the little homemade funnel on top of the bottle. And I'll pour in the beans. Okay. So now they're in. Unscrew it. And I'll put a fizz-giz cap onto the thing. And I'm not going to screw it all the way tight. I'm just going to kind of leave it loose here. And take a fizz-giz dispenser, CO2 dispenser, and I'm going to purge the air out of the headspace. This is a fairly simple process. CO2 is heavier than air for the most part. It pushes out the oxygen and those other things, the nitrogen and you know, smog, whatever. And then I'm going to cap it off tight and go ahead and pressurize the bottle here. You can see the bottle swelling up. Okay. And so that's probably, I don't know, 60, 70 psi, I don't know. So anyway, the pressurized headspace now is 100% CO2. CO2 when it comes in these containers, like CO2 conventional containers, CGA 320 tanks, the smaller paintball tanks, even these little CO2 bulbs that are used by the FizzGiz CO2 dispenser, is 100% anhydrous. It means there's no water in it. This is a perfectly dry atmosphere inside the beans. So, you know, you could probably get a pound, pound and a half of beans in here. And anytime that you open them and use them, you would just reseal it, put the CO2 in the same way as before to flush the air out, and then tighten it all the way and pressurize the bottle. Now you can actually use a smaller bottle, and it's, you know, pretty handy to do that. I think most 16-ounce bags of coffee will actually fit in a 12-ounce bottle. I haven't tested it. Okay, I'm going to take the contraption off. You can even put CO2 in like this if you want to kind of exhaust the air out. But I like to use the cap. And we put a little CO2 in to vent out, purge all the air. Cap it off tightly and pressurize. This black banana-shaped contraption is actually a FizzGiz soda maker CO2 dispenser. It works great for the beans. Now I'll take these beans, put them in the cabinet, and won't have to worry about the fact that they're in a clear bottle. They'll be away from the light. So you've gotten rid of the three major enemies of fresh roast specialty coffee. Number one, oxygen in the air. We've eliminated all the air. Number two, humidity in the air. We've gotten rid of all the moisture. And number three, if you put this away in a cabinet, keep it away from the sunlight, you eliminate the exposure to the ultraviolet rays. I have actually preserved that wonderful first week freshness that these beans are famous for up to 18 weeks. Don't believe it? Try it. Guarantee it works. It worked for Francesco Illy with the illycaffe. They actually invented the first, what we could say, modern commercial espresso maker design, and filed his patent for his pressurized cans. And now you can bring what I call modified atmosphere packaging techniques right into your home and preserve your fresh roast coffee beans for up to 18 weeks. All right, so thanks a bunch. Here's some contact information with FizzGiz if you want to get a FizzGiz CO2 dispenser. They're readily available online. Just Google for FizzGiz. And, you know, FizzGiz caps make it pretty easy to cap off the bottles and pressurize them. You have a little valve, you know, inside. And you know, you don't have to use a FizzGiz dispenser. You can get any kind of a CO2 tank and rig up your own regulator. These devices, I think a whole kit's $34.95 online. They're more like $50 on Amazon. But this is a great little tool, handy. Thanks for listening.